I'll have that here. Step A. So ganito siya. We need to solve for the components. For the components. That means to say the x and the y. Since we are only dealing with two components lang man, wala pa man taga 3D. But anyway, di pa ta maabot dira. So, kana siya. So, for that component, and since you have vector, so ganito mong vector, naman kay duha ka vector, no? You have vector m. That means to say you are going to find for m sub x as well as your m sub y. And since you have other vector n, mangitaon sab nimo si n sub x ug si n sub y. Okay, so let's start with the first vector. For m sub x. By the way, class, in this way of solving sa analytic method, you have to replot your vectors here again. So basically, sir, nganong nagplot man ka tong una sa imong tail to tip? Ang imuha lang isa ka pinaka-point ato class is ma-determine nimo asa ang position sa imong resultant. And as I've said, it is a way of checking kung nagkanima o ba imong nakuha nga answer sa imuang Rx ug Ry later. So since we are still considering in this case, first vector muna, kining vector m nimo, you have to plot again vector m here. So that one there is your 30 degrees and this is your vector m. Now, I am asking you, unsa man ni akong broken lines diri this portion here. So, I don't know what you're thinking, but the upper portion that I dotted first is your, sige daw, unsa man yung huna-huna, that is your m sub x, meaning the x component of your m vector. And so is this one, kini sab siya nga length class, mao na imong x component. And this one here is your y component of your vector, and this one also here is the y component of that same vector. Now, we are looking for m sub x, right? The x component of the vector m. So m sub x is equal to, I don't know if you remember this from class, but automatically class, if we are using the standard position measure of your angle, it will always be like this. Just the magnitude of that vector and the x component automatically will be the cosine of the angle theta. So I will just like to make a disclaimer here that when I say automatically, this is the form of the equation for your x component only. Okay? I made this very clear. Only when theta is actually SPA. So meaning it's a standard position na angle pag measure. So unsa man na siya? So basically, nana ni sa inyong geometry or kanang gibalik-balik na to ni sa klase, no? It means to say that if I'm going to continue with my solution, I will have the magnitude of m, so ganito diri, is 3 meters. So I'm just going to write 3 meters here. And then I should write cosine. Now, take note of this. I will not write cosine of 30 degrees, even though clearly that the angle says 30 degrees. Because that 30 degrees is not a standard position angle na pag-measure. So, I will not write cosine 30 as I've said, but instead, I will use the standard position angle, which is from, of course, you've learned that from your geometry. You start from the positive x up until the terminal side here. That means your angle theta is equal to 90 degrees because nitabok man tataman diri, no? 90 degrees. And I'm just gonna erase that one plus your 30 degrees. Okay, mauman ni siya. From here to here is another 30, so that will give you 120 degrees. Okay, so meaning to say, I will be writing here cosine of 120 degrees. Now, sir, ana man ka sir nga dita mag-calculator, di ba? So, it's actually very easy. You don't have to be intimidated while you are seeing cosine 120. If you understood the discussion on the unit circle, you are just going to use symmetries. So, how will you do that? I'm going to write my unit circle here, and in the exam, it is expected class that you create your own unit circle. Kaya dali ra gyud ka na siya kung nakuha nimo ang pattern ana. So I'm going to write first this angle here. So this angle, as you can see, is, di ba, 30 degrees. So I'm basically mirroring the angle sa ako ang vector M. Now, mangutana ko, unsa may reflection na niya diri sa pika. So I'm going to create 3 angles. And I will allow you to decide. So first, is this more like pink one? Is that the reflection of 30 degrees? How about the green one? Or is it the green one here? Ang reflection or symmetry ana niya. Diba? Always man gyud no ang makatabang gyud nato ani class symmetries gyud. Para di ta mabuang og memorize kay basically di gyud siya dapat i-memorize. You just have to understand the relationship of the angles. So sige, mapana ko ninyo. Asa man ang symmetry sa imo ang 30 degrees or iyang reflection? Kadumdum mo itong gipapilo-pilo ta magpapil? Is it A, B, or C? So imagine na kung piluon ni ning papel twice class in half. So if this is your paper, nakasulat ka imong unit circle, iana nimo tagbo ni ning duha. Fold it in half. So where is the reflection or symmetry of 30 degrees? So if you answered B or C, you have to rethink again. Kaya na you got it wrong. Basically, the reflection of this angle is, to change the size, the reflection of 30 degrees there is clearly the 60 degrees on quadrant 1. And we recall na ang atong ordered pairs ana niya class is 1/2 and square root of 3 all over 2. Now, since basically this angle here is merely a reflection of the other, pagpariha ra gyud na siya sign, magnitude sa imong component. So 1/2 square root of 3 over 2 ra gyapon na siya. Pero as I've said and I keep on repeating on the class, magbantay ka sa sign. Take note that the 1/2 should bear a negative sign there. It's because the values of x where this angle is located kay naa siya sa left. Pero walay makabaguhan sa imong square root of 3 over 2 kay naara man ka sa y which is still the positive y na part. Now, mao ni. So ana posible ako nang anticipate inyong pangutan. Hello sir, ano naman na siya sir, na imo man ang cosine 120 unsa man ako napagbutang dito So basically kana imong cosine 120 class in SPA na measurement pareha ra na siya sa imong 30 degrees nga angle diri nga nakita. 30 degrees nga west of north kini siya ba. Gihimo lang natong SPA kay lagi sa ako nang ginaingon kung gusto ka magamit ani nga mura bitaw kana lang nga form sa imong equation imong gamiton sa tanang x component regardless of unsay gingalan sa imong vector, you have to use the standard position angle para dali. But again, kanang cosine 120 nimo dira class, iba mao man nino akong i-redraw usab ha para makuha gyud mao man imong 120, di ba? Okay. So ang cosine ana niya as I keep on saying sa class, ang first ni mga term ana no kay mao gyud na imong cosine sa imong angle. Second term mao na ang sine sa imong angle. So then na-establish man nato na kani daay nga points diri ang reflection ana niya diri kay kaning 60 degrees sa pikas kini akong gi-broken line nga pink kini ba. And of course since they are symmetries, they should have the same value. So right now the cosine 120 is just this one. You don't need calculator as I've said. So I'm going to write here 3 meters and the cosine of 120 is negative 1/2. So that means to say that the m sub x in this case is equal to negative 3 over 2 meters. So that's your x component. Okay? Okay. So how about the y component? Now, for the y component, as I've said, by the way, if you notice, I am constantly stressing class no na if you are using SPA, this is how you do it. Kay natay other method which I will also share. Kay it's up to you how you will approach the problem. So for the m sub y, we are still on the first vector. Automatically, ang form ana niya is just the magnitude of the vector itself and then the sign. Basta y ka, sign na siya automatic na component. But again, this works when your theta here is still standard position angle. Meaning to say, you measure it from the positive x-axis nimo So I just want you to remember your geometry class here. Now, as you can see, the magnitude of your vector m is given there. And then the sine of, so do not commit the mistake of writing the sine as 30 degrees. Because again, the theta here should be SPA, standard position. Meaning to say, I already illustrated it here, your theta or your angle must be 120. So you write 120 degrees and you utilize the symmetries. The same symmetry nimo. Your 30 degrees here or in SPA 120 degrees is basically just the symmetry in the unit circle sa katong 60 degrees nimo. Therefore, as I keep on saying, it must have the same components, magbari lang ang sign. So the sine of 120 is this one. As I highlighted, ang sine nimo kay kanang sa y component nimo in SPA nga measure, standard position angle. Now, you're just going to replace that here. The sine of 120 is just square root of 3 over 2. So makabalog yun ko sa mga mag-calculator ani. Kay decimal lang answer. So it's 3 over 2 square root of 3 meters. So that is your component in the y. Okay, and manata na class sa isa ka vector. Now, I'm going to show you the katong anak ko noon na ay other nga pamaagi. Pero I do not recommend this, especially for beginners kasi usually manotice na ko mga sayop ang mga students ani. Kaya di sila makabantay ba. So this is what I said kung ganahan mo sa alternative. So, yep. Just going to resketch the vectors. As you can see here. And this is your vector here. This is its direction. Now break the components. That's the m sub x. And this one here is your m sub y because our vector is basically vector m. Just going to sulat m sub x here, m sub y, and this is your vector m. Siya. Now, I'm going to identify first my 90 degrees angle, which are that one, those things that I just annotated. And that's my arrows indicating my directions. That's my north, my south, my east, and my west. Now, if you don't want to use SPA, meaning ani class, di mo ganahan manguha sa kanang from the positive x-axis nga measurement. Gusto mo gamiton ng 30 degrees. This is how you do it. Pero magbantay mo ani ha. First thing, so you can see here, you want, unsa gani imong gusto, you want m sub x, you want to solve m sub x. So m sub x mo imong gusto buhaton, kwaon. Now, upon getting m sub x, you have to ask again, what is the relationship of your angle theta and m sub x? So unsa may relationship? Your angle theta is here, your m sub x is unsa man? Naa siya sa iyang opposite. So meaning to say, opposite. So inote ninyo na dirhala, opposite sila. When they are opposite, remember the mnemonics katong so katawa. So opposite kinsa may naa to ang so, right? So meaning to say the sine of the angle theta is equal to the opposite, which is this one here, m sub x, and then the hypotenuse. Of course, the hypotenuse will always be opposite to your right angle. In this case, you have two right angle man sir, but actually they are facing each other. So basically, that is telling you, without any shed of doubt yun, na ang imuhang hypotenuse na is the vector itself. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite that one. I will be getting m sub x is equal to my vector m sine of theta. Okay, take note. If you are using standard position angle, which we did last time, cosine ang function nimo nga gigamit. Tawagan ni diri, sine siya. So, maunang niana ko nga, depende na ninyo sa inyong buhaton. So, magpadayon sa kuno. So, vector m nimo is parihara 3 meters. Pero this time around, you are going to use the angle itself, which is sine of 30. So if you remember from our class, the sine of 30 is unsa gani? Uy, dapat madumduman ninyo na sa unit circle. That is basically just the reverse of your cosine 60. I mean, the reverse of the ordered pairs of your 60. So meaning to say, you have square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. So mastiron gud ninyo ni, kay wala gyud tay calculator ay. Okay, so after that one, you're going to get m sub x. Sama na siya. Uy, nalahi akong color pero pasaylo kay kapoy na mag-erase. 3 meters, and then the sine of 30, of course, is the y component. So, which is 1/2. And m sub x is equal to 3 over 2. Now, do note of this one. Diri gid usually masayo pang students. Kay ilang huna-huna, sine of 30 raman. Yang sine biya sa 30 kay 1/2. Wala sila kabantay nga ang imuhang vector naglay na po diri. So mao na mga bantayan gud gihapon nimo ni siya class. Kana imong sine 30 dira, it should bear a negative nga sign. So mao nang ingon ani dapat imo makuha na m sub x. Okay? Nagkasinabot, hopefully nagkasinabot ano. Then sa imong m sub y, mao ra gihapon. M sub y nimo automatic yun na siya class if one of the component either x or y kay cosine or sine, ang isa balig yun na siya. Kung cosine na gani imong x, sine yun na imong y. Okay? So, pero ani class, ako gyapon ning i-show ninyo na m sub y. So, kung ganahan mag-ingon ani nga pamaagi, kamoy bahala. Now, your m sub y, mao ni imong gusto pang itao, no? So, the first question is, unsay relationship sa imong angle ug sa component na gusto nimo pang itaon? So, I'm just going to maybe use green. Unsay relationship sa imong angle kana siya ug sa imong m sub y? Okay, so asa ganina akong isulat sa pika sa basig matingala mo man ang m sub y, sir. Maura na diri, this is still m sub y kini nga portion or kini. Unsa may relationship nila? They are not opposite but they are adjacent, tapad. So meaning to say, sang i-erase ni balik para dili kayo mahugaw. That means to say that you have to note that they are adjacent. So medyo libog yun siya nga pamagi class. Pero kung ganahan ka ning ani, kung di ka ganahan mag standard position sa angle nimo. So adjacent. So adjacent, so ka, that's ka, na adjacent ang A nimo ani, this is adjacent A. So you have cosine of the angle theta is equal to unsa man adjacent, tapad my, m sub y all over hypotenuse. And of course, your hypotenuse is the one opposite to the 90 degrees, which is just your vector m. So, a little bit of manipulation will give you m sub y is equal to vector m cosine of theta. So, this time around, the advantage lang yun ani class is you don't have to think of other angles sa imong cosine theta kay kung unsay gihatag sa vector, mausab na imong gamiton, cosine 30. So, m sub y then is equal to 3 meters. The cosine of 30 should be square root of 3 over 2. And you are getting that m sub y is equal to 3 over 2 square root of 3 meters. So, that is your m sub y. Okay, m sub y. Right, there. So, sa m sub y, if you notice, pariha ra bag nakuha. Pariha ra yun na siya makuha. Ang problema lang ani class, again, I am talking of the second method, no? Ang problema lang sa second method or challenge sa second method if you opt to do this one is unsa man. Firstly, kay maghuna-huna ka, unsa akong gamiton? Should I use sine or should I use cosine? Mao ra gyud ni isa sa iyang drawback. And ikaduha, kay magbantay gyud ka sa iyang sine kay di maguka kabantay ani nga imong thinking, as I've said, ang sine 30 kay 1/2 lang. But you fail to take into account that your 30 is actually situated on the negative or quadrant 2 which have negative sign sa x. Munang dapat na gyud na siya negative. Okay, pareha na. Mao na iya ang kalainan niya. However, kung mauna kong i-recommend ninyo mag-SPA na lang yun mo, standard position sa imong angle, kay ano man, unsa man imong buhaton. If you have given an angle just like 30 degrees, you just get the standard position. Ang theta nimo diri naka-standard position angle siya dapat. Meaning to say, measured from, balik na yung kuha no? Positive x axis. So, mao na imong ibutang dira instead of writing cosine 30 degrees, na kay cosine 120. Dayon, mao ra gihapon yun. Gamiton na imong unit circle. Asa man imong position sa imong angle 30 degrees na diri. Now, unsag mangutanan ka, sige ako ni siyang i-reflect diri sa pikas. Kinsa man ato. Naara gyud na sa tulo, either 30, 45, or 60. So, clearly, if imong i-reflect diri, kini iya ang reflection, which is 60 degrees. So, you just have to copy the coordinates or the components of that, just change the sign. So, kanang cosine 120 nimo diri, maumang gihapon na diri, kuhaon lang nimo ng first component niya, which is negative 1/2. Okay? Pero whichever way works, it's up to you unsaon nimo na siya or as I prefer nimo nga solbaron pamaagi sa pag-solve. Okay? So, proceed ta no sa butangan akong note para di mo maglibog. Basig na ay dili ganahan mo lantaw sa record, at least magkuan na siya, maglantaw na siya sa kaning text, alternative way. So let's deal with the second vector. Sa atong second vector for, this is vector n. Vector n. First thing that we have to do is to sketch or plot the vector. Plotting that vector there, and I'm just going to assign my direction. That's north, south. This is my east, and this one here is my west. And my vector is basically 60 degrees south of west. So again, kung balikon ha, para di gyud wala na gyud excuse nga wala masabtan. The orientation of your protractor, since you will be scaling this one, is from the west. Dito ang 0 degrees sa imong protractor going south. So diri dapat imo ang 0 degrees sa imong protractor going south. So meaning ana siya. And this one here is your 60 degrees. Okay, for this is again your vector n. Alright, so I'm going to break it into components. I should have used a different color, no? Pero sige, padayunan na lang. This one here is your n sub x. And from here up until here is your n sub y. This one also is your n sub y, because basically parallel na siya, no? Ug n sub x nimo. Right? So I'm hoping that is making sense. So what I'm just going to show you, class, is katong akong gi-encourage sa inyo ang mag-standard position angle lang yun ta. So automatic, if you are going to use standard position angle and you are going to find for the x component, matik na siya nga, sa ganito nga trigonometric function, cosine gyud na siya. Pero bantayan nimo nga ang theta kay dapat, sige, unsa man dapat, SPA na siya dapat. Standard position angle na ang measurement niya. So the x component of vector n is just vector n itself, cosine of, sige, 60 degrees, dili na maong gamiton, mag-SPA man ka na. So, take note of this blue na kuan, arrow. So, sugod ko diri, padulong, dira, mauna akong SPA. Kaya diba ang SPA magsugod sa positive x. So, I cross actually, gikan diri padulong diri, 180 na nadaan. So, akong theta ni class, theta is equal to 180 degrees plus the 60. Kaya gikan diri padulong diri, kini siya nga part, 60 degrees man na siya. So, 60 degrees. So, pila man na siya karon. So, that will be 240 degrees. So, meaning, ang imong ibutang diri kay cosine sa 240 degrees. Okay, so nx. This is just 5 meters ang magnitude. Cosine of 240. Kagala, unsaon man na sir ang cosine of 240? So, I'm just going to copy. Copy lang na ko niya. Maghimo na ako bagong unit vector. Unit vector, sorry. At magbagong unit circle. And let's look at the symmetry. Muna nakanindot dito sa math class ang yung symmetries. Na siya. So again, no, ako nang i-sketch ng akong vector 60 degrees. So kanin siya diri, mao ni akong 60 degrees karon. Now, unsa ganito atong giingon? Kung ingon ana ang imuhang position sa imong vector, pwede man na, di ba? Kadungdong man sa kung giingon sa klase nga ang iyang reflection or symmetry ana kay kanang straight line ra gihapon niya. Marag inana siya ba? So, marag inani siya straight line niya kanang blue. So buot pasabot unsa man na siya nga angle. Sige daw, hinumdumi daw ninyo unsa man na nga angle nga naa didto sa taas. So tulo ra gid ang tubag ana kay special angle man ta 30, 45, 60. So clearly from here up until here is 60 degrees. Dayon unsa ganito ang atong mga ordered pairs sa atong 60 degrees, diba atong x ana niya or atong pinaka first sa ordered pair is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Since kani siyang 60 degrees, reflection naman na no sa atong original nga angle diri sa atong vector n, kini siya ba? Kini nga position diri. So 60 man pud ni. Kini 60 pud na siya dira. Kini 60. So unsa may pasabot ana, reflection lang man siya or symmetry lang man siya. They have the same components. 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Pero again, bantayan ang sign. So basically, sa quadrant 3 naman ni, ang x ni mo negative, so is your y. So mag-negative na silang duha. So kanang cosine 240 ni mo dira, you don't have to worry kasi nga, basta kabalo ka sa unit circle, walay palabanay calculator. Cosine 240, first component, as I've said, that is the cosine theta. The second component, in that case, square root of 3 over 2, is the sine ni mo. So kanang cosine 240 ni mo dira because basically kini padulong dira mao man na imong 240 degrees kay unsa man negative 1/2. Okay, so negative 1/2 ra ni siya. So you see, di ba dita kinahanglag calculator. So unsa man ay mahitabuan na natay negative 5 over 2 meters. So that's my x component for my vector n. Now let's go to vector y. So again, since we are utilizing, mao ni advantage good class if magamit ta og SPA sa atong theta. Okay, automatic. Basta gani x, automatic yun na siya cosine nga function. Basta y, sa may mahitabuan na, automatic sab nga sine ang function nga imong gamiton. That is again, I am stressing again and again, taman sa maglagot gid mo sa ako SPA ng measurement sa imong theta. Meaning, gi-measure nimo sugod sa positive x-axis. Okay? So, unsa man ani karon? Vector n. Kung naisulat ang vector n, no, that is, sorry, that's not 3, but it's 5. 5 meters. Tapos, ang sine sa imong theta, kay unsa gani ni? Sine, ako bang isulat ang 60 degrees? Di ba? Dili. Kay kanang 60 degrees nga nakita nimo diri sa imong original vector, this one class, kini nga portion diri kay di na siya SPA. Ang SPA ana niya kay kini siya. Kay gikan man sa positive x-axis. So you write sine of 240 degrees there. Okay, so din sine man na siya. So take note, ang second component lang. Hawa siya. Second component, kini. So imo ra na i-copy. We have 5 meters. The sine of 240. Since this is 240, gikan diri ani, padulong diri ani nga arrowhead is just negative square root of 3 over 2. So you are getting that, sorry, it should be n sub y. N sub y is equal to negative 5 over 2 square root of 3. So kana lang imong isulat. Dili kinahanglan, sir, unsa may decimal na? I'm not looking for decimal. Okay, I'm looking for, pwede na siya, mas hinlo na lang tayo ng mga square root. Square root of 3. Okay, so we are done with the step 1. So again, I am just highlighting na alternative way. Kung ganahan mo class, itry ninyo para mahasa mo ba. Try to solve for vector n using this alternative way. And trust me, if magbantay lang mo, you will get the same answer. But what I am advocating is you use SPA. Para automatic, basta x gani sa to, cosine yun na siya ang tapad sa imong vector. Ug y, automatic sine yun na siya. Sige, so the next step will be, sa ganing buhaton sa next step. Step 3 is to, are we on step 3? I guess we are still on step 2.